Welcome, everyone, to In Between Media and the 19th hole live. We are sipping Wild Turkey Rare Breed, and we're still coming off that super high of a hell of a U.S. Open. This week, we got the Travelers Championship in Connecticut. So, cheers to you. Let's get it started. Let's tee off. Oh, baby, here we are, 19th hole live. Make sure you get on YouTube and subscribe, like, comment, In Between Media, home of lifestyle, fantasy sports, all mingled together. I am not all by my lonesome tonight. I have a special guest from the No Laying Up pod. Ian is going to pop in here in just a second, and he's going to very, very gracefully replace our two co-hosts. Normally we have Kelly in Phoenix, who's under the weather. I hope she feels better soon. And I have Connor, he got goaded into a family dinner of some type. May he rest in peace. But let's bring Ian in here. Let's talk about the Travelers Championship and sip a little bit of whiskey. Ian McNeill, how you doing, buddy? Flag hunting. Sorry, I said no laying up, and I guess there's so many golf pods out there that I don't even pay attention to. Flag hunting. Tell me about flag hunting, Ian.
Yeah, what's up, Bo, man? Great to be here. And yeah, you're sipping on some whiskey. I'm doing the frat boy style, doing the little seltzer there. So haven't quite got the acquired taste for a lot of the whiskey. All my buddies, we head out to the bars and they get all these, whiskey and bourbon and stuff like that. And I typically just stick to kind of beer. So I'm still kind of basic taste. Hopefully I can spend some more time around here and maybe upgrade to the whiskey and bourbon eventually. But yeah. Good to be here, man. Flag hunting is, just a bit of a startup that me and my buddy Chris started up. We primarily focus on golf and NASCAR. But yeah, every single week recap the races or go over the races and the tournaments and figure out who's going to win or what props or what fantasy plays we like that week. So by all means, man, visit us on Twitter. And, if you like what you hear tonight, and I can't wait to talk to the Travelers and a little bit maybe of the U.S. Open as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna be seeing quite a drastic change from one of the tougher golf courses that these tour players will ever play in their careers to one that's gonna have some monster scoring, like birdies and eagles just flying all over the place up there in Connecticut. Yeah. But before we spin it back, you got the Topo Chico Ranch water there. I see that. That's a nice little lime tequila drink, or you have a citrus variety?
I got the little mango. Yeah, I got the mango.
Mango. Ooh, I love mango. I love mango drinks, man.
Yeah, summer vibes, right?
Yeah, I got the Wild Turkey Rare Breed, which is the full proof bourbon from Wild Turkey, 116.8 proof. So it's really hot and neat. Like I'm drinking it neat because I'm just a freak, but full flavor. You don't need to do much more than sip it every couple minutes, and it'll get you lit up. Especially me. I just got off work, just ran in from another pod while I was at work, and I had another pod earlier today, and I haven't eaten anything all day besides some peanut M&Ms. This is gonna hit me harder later, so I'm gonna get my clear thoughts out before I start feeling the effects.
Yeah, stick around, guys, because you might hear some pretty hot takes from Bo as the night goes on and the glass gets a little bit thinner down there.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about your U.S. Open. I mean, how did you fare when it comes to your plays for the U.S. Open over there at the Country Club in Brookline?
Yeah, man, it went about as well as I could have possibly expected, to be honest with you. It's good that you had me on this week because we just got off kind of hitting our second golf outright in a row, our third outright in general for the podcast in a row. So we had Fitzy, a little future we placed before the PGA Championship at 50-1, and then we had Will Zalatoris the week of at 30. So we had both guys in the final group. Looked like Scheffler was gonna spoil the party there and maybe win by 4 or 5 through about 6 holes. He was 4 under through 6, and your mind immediately races to the Masters and the display he put on there. And when Scheffler gets hot, it's just like anyone at the top of these world rankings, man, he can make the game look so easy and birdie some of the hardest holes on the golf course, no matter where he's at. So lucky for us though, Scotty kind of caught him hit a bit of a speed bump in the back 9. Fitzy was able to take advantage, make a few clutch putts there at the end, and come out with a one-shot win. So cash to 50-1, you can't get much better than that. So
no, that's really damn good. 50-1's awesome. I was well off the Fitz train. I'm a noted Fitz hater, at least for DFS purposes. I don't have decent sports betting. I have to go offshore because I live in California, and we don't have that fun stuff where I could take a nice long shot like that. Fitz that's playing really well this year. That sounds a lot better than the way he was trending on DFS, where he was ultra chalky. He's played well statistically all season, but he really hasn't put it all together yet until this last week. And where I really just think he has a punchable face, and that's why I don't like him. The dude played out of his mind over the weekend, and I started rooting for him because you see a guy who takes notes. He's recorded every single shot he's taken since he was 15 in a notebook, detailed type of guy. And it's because he recognizes what his limitations are. He's not the physically gifted Rory McIlroy. He's not the Bryson DeChambeau that can drive it 350 yards. He's the guy that's going to have to win with his game. And that's exactly what he did at the Country Club, just like he did in 2013 at the Amateur with Scotty Scheffler and others hot on his trail in that tournament, which is match play. And that's a whole different ballgame. They're talking the same course, but with match play versus stroke play, it's a whole different ballgame. But I think that's what it takes to win a tough tournament like that, is just overly preparing yourself to hit meticulous shots and think your way around a golf course and hit quality shots on every turn. And he didn't make any mistakes. And every time I look at Fitz, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, he's a great ball striker. We all know that. Like, we look at the stats, and he pops off the strokes gained metrics across the board until you get to putting. And then you're like, yeah, if he could putt ever, then he could win some tournaments. And look at that. He's top 5 in putting for the first time, and there's his first PGA Tour win. Shocker.
No, for sure, man. And I think that point is really well stated about Fitz and his background, and kind of it's obviously he's not American, so us guys stateside, we're probably pulling for Zalatoris or a Scheffler to get it done in our National Open. But just the background that Fitz came from, and like you said, he's not the most physically gifted. He's 5'10", $155, and that's even with the way he's gained over the last 6 months or so. So I mean, he was always kind of one of the shorter hitters on tour, and I think it's a testament to the work that he's put in. He was always a really accurate driver of the golf ball, but the distance that he was able to pick up over these last 6 months, I mean, he's one of the best drivers of the golf ball, bar none, in the world right now. And that's something you just really couldn't say a few years ago when he was, hitting up 265, 270 off the tee. Now he's routinely hitting it past, guys like Will Zalatoris, who's one of the longer hitters on tour. So I think that was, that was kind of all the narrative around the talk about Fitzy this week, was about kind of his maniacal work ethic, to your point, his meticulous nature. And he's just obsessed with golf. And I think he had a quote after the PGA Championship that, when obviously he was in the final group and couldn't come through there. I think he finished somewhere around T5, T6 in that event. But yeah, he basically just equated, I think he got a question about the Live Tour and his potential, his idea or his thoughts about going over there. And he was like, no, I'm in it for my legacy. I'm in it to win trophies. And lo and behold, a month later, he's lifting probably the biggest trophy in the sport. So,
and the biggest payout in the history of championship golf,
exactly,
besides the Live Tour, of course, which I think has less to do with winning than it does just being noticed. And that's what we're really getting into, is like the Live Tour is the elephant in the room. We can't ignore it now. because now that Brooks Koepka's there, along with DJ and Phil and all the other bigger names that have signed on for gobs of money from the Saudis, and for Greg Norman's ego to grow a little bit more. I don't have a problem with these guys chasing money. I just have a problem with them chasing money that comes from terrorists and murderers. Like, literally, the whole paper trail of that money is blood money. And I don't want to spend somebody else's money, because that's the worst thing you can do, is just be jealous of how rich somebody is. Yeah. But I think that the inclusion part of it, where PGA Tour pros are kind of jilted by having to cover all their costs, not having any guarantees, basically being at the behest of the egos of the PGA Tour. Like, Monahan's been kind of an abrasive prick through this whole process, and now they're extending that really backhanded olive branch of the prestige October events for the top golfers to make some extra money. It's like, that's not what the tour needs. The tour needs to compete. The tour needs to have the Live Tour not be a money competition, but more just like, hey, maybe we should look inward on how we treat our tour players, and maybe treat them better, so maybe they're not as drawn to the big payday of going to the Live Tour and playing in basically what's in a shotgun start exhibition 54 hole. That's, I mean, you can't pretend that that's championship golf after watching PGA Tour events, especially after just watching that US Open, which was fantastic. Yeah. Like, the Live Tour is a trash product, but they're treating these players better than the PGA Tour is. So What are they going to do?
I mean, I think, that's really well said. And I've always kind of been on this boat of, like, if they made the Live Tour about actually, like, making positive changes in the world of golf, like, I think a lot more people would get behind it. Like, obviously these guys are in it for the money, but, like, all this, like, grow the game BS and, like, them, like, acting like the Saudi regime is, like, they're getting better, they learn from mistakes. Like, it's not about that. Like, I think, honestly, like, the biggest positive that can come from all this is the fact that the PGA Tour has to, like you said, look inward and realize that there's a reason why all these guys are leaving, and it's because they don't get the support. Like, it's great for the top 10, 15, 20 guys in the game, but for so many PGA Tour guys, I mean, there's countless stories of guys getting their PGA Tour card and achieving their lifelong dream, having 4 months of bad form, crashing out the PGA Tour, $50,000 less,
to bagging groceries a year later. If they don't want to start over on Corn Ferry or a lower tour, they're going back to square one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, it has to, I think the PGA Tour for me has to, again, look inward. They've got to really support the grassroots part of this tour, and these young kids that are coming up, or the veterans that have kept you afloat for so long, and that have kept their tour card and have been a part of your product for so long. I think a little bit of homage to those guys would go a long way.
Completely agree. So what do you say we jump into some DFS plays for the Travelers Championship? I mean, I'm going to set Dave up for this drop. We don't want any trunk slams this week.
The club as well. This would be a wrestling slam.
This is no trunk slams. We're going to break down. We're going to do some top tier options on DraftKings. We're going to go down to the mid tier. We're going to do some value plays. I'm going to have Ian pick himself a captain and a sleeper. Yeah, Kelly is right. If you pop that up, Kelly saw that for the first time all year, I got dead last in our three-way tournament that we had for the US Open because all the guys that I put in were great values, but they didn't do well. I built a beautiful lineup on paper.
Oh yeah, right? Yeah. That's where it gets you in trouble, man. I mean, for me in the betting sphere, man, you can build the prettiest card of all time. And you love the values you got, and then you go to Thursday morning and you fast forward, and they're all 3 over through 2, and you're like, well, great, now it's time to move on to the next week.
Well, just getting by with a couple shares of Zalatoris and Scheffler, and then completely fading the U.S. Open champion Matt Fitzpatrick wasn't going to end well for me anyway. So yeah, I'll take my L. I've gotten second place like every single week. I've won once, and then now I've gotten last place once. I'm going to get back into the bridesmaid position this week at the Travelers in Cromwell, Connecticut, par 70, TPC River Highlands. This is going to be a scoring fest. We're talking the opposite of what we just saw in Boston. It's going to be just birdies and eagles all over the place. This is not a tough course. These guys, it's a prime field. I mean, we got some really big names that carried over. Barring any last minute, I'm really tired from playing that U.S. Open. I need to take a week off. A lot of these guys are already committed. Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, Sam Burns, all your usual suspects from the top of the world golf rankings are going to be here in Connecticut trying to go low. And the course record here, Jim Furyk a couple of years ago threw a 58 on the board. It's the lowest score it's ever been carded on the PGA Tour. It was right here at this tournament. So expect even on par 70, we're going to be looking at probably 20, 25 under par for the winner. And you're going to have to find a guy who's going to just make birdies and bunches, get super duper hot, and finish the weekend. How do you feel about this top tier over $10,000? You got 6 guys, starting with Xander Schauffele at 10 flat, all the way up to Scheffler at 11.2. Is there anybody that stands out here above the other guys on this course for you?
For me, it really kind of comes down to the top 3 for me. So Scheffler, Rory, and JT, I think for most people that have been watching golf over the last few months, I mean, those 3 are the 3 best players in the world. And 2 points, kind of an odd starting the calendar and an odd spot to be to have all 3 of these guys. Maybe a little bit of a push from Jay Monahan being like, okay, guys, Portland's next week. We got to put on a show here at Travelers. So I know you're weary maybe a little bit from the U.S. Open, but make a little guest appearance here at River Highlands at Cromwell, Connecticut for us. So for me, of these top 3 guys, look, Scheffler is – I'm not really dumb enough to come on here and proclaim the world number a complete fade, but let's keep in mind the last 2 guys that went down to the wire to a major and came out the next week. I mean, Cam Smith after the Masters emceed at the RBC Heritage. Both JT and Will Zalatoris, 2 guys in the playoff for the PGA, came in the next week at Colonial and both emceed. So the U.S. Open, man, for golfers is about as grueling as 4 days as you can experience. And I don't discount really the mental wear either that it has to have taken on Scotty. He was basically the favorite for most of that Sunday. And, probably feels a little bit hard done by that he got snatched away at the end there by Fitzy. So I'm about as comfortable fading Scheffler as I ever will be, especially considering kind of the firepower we have just a few spots down the board. When you get to Rory at 11 flat, Rory, I came in to the U.S. Open really high. He was my pick to win the U.S. Open, even though I didn't really have an outright on him. He putted his ass off at Brookline. I think he gained almost 10 strokes putting in 4 rounds at the U.S. Open, but still came out 4 shots short. So it feels like it's been a longer road to this point for Rory than the other guys around him. He's playing for his 4th straight week, off a 4th straight week here coming into the Travelers, and obviously coming off the same grueling 4 days at the top of a grueling U.S. Open leaderboard. So I really don't care what anyone says. Rory's mind is not on the Travelers. Like, he's looking ahead to Scotland. He's looking ahead to St. Andrews. So for me, Scotty and
Connor's watching, man, he's going to be upset because the new guy just came on and dropped a Rory fade on us. I love it. I love it. I'm with you. With you. But of course, you might know from watching the show that Connor is the ultimate Rory McIlroy stan. He picks him every single week. This isn't the week, Connor. If there is a week to take a break, like Rory will, it's this week when he was already, even after round 2, saying that was the toughest day of golf he's ever had, or something like that. So for me, I'm off the top 2 guys. I love JT this week because it seems like when the going gets tough, he might not be able to hang with the bogey avoidance crowd like last week. But man, when there's birdies to be had, JT finds them because nobody's better with an iron in his hand and finding the fairway. Man, you can find these fairways at Highlands. I mean, that's one thing is that if you can find these fairways, you're taking dead aim at these flags. And if JT's taking dead aim, I don't want anybody else.
Absolutely.
And then Sam Burns. I mean, Sam Burns can drive the shit out of the golf ball, and another great ball striker all the way from tee to green. And man, we just saw it a couple weeks ago. The dude can make birdies and bunches on a course that doesn't have much teeth to it. those two guys are the very top, and it's really not close. Like I drop down pretty far after those two guys until I get to kind of the low nines, to where I find more guys that I really, really want to play. In at least maxing my exposure out. Like if I'm betting, I'm taking top 10, top 20 bets on all these guys that I'm mentioning down the road. But for DFS, I'm just looking to get like a 40% max out exposure on the top guys. I'll have like 5 or 6 of those guys that I really lock in for most of my lineups. And then I'll have the rest of my pool just kind of rounded out with 20 to 30% exposure.
Absolutely agree. At the top for me, JT is the clear favorites kind of these top 3 guys for me. You mentioned obviously his iron play, but in particular his wedge play. I've always thought JT was the best wedge player on the PGA Tour. We're going to a place now that only measures 6,800, like 41 yards. I think it's the second shortest golf course on the tour. If JT keeps the driver, he's going to have so many looks from 122 yards in the middle of the fairway. He's going to stick him to 4 feet. And he's the guy that I really think from an outright perspective could run away with this tournament at the top. So, for me, Justin Thomas is my play over over Rory and over Scheffler. And I actually have an outright bet on Sam Burns. So we're reading each other's mail here. Burns, I feel like, I found anywhere from 18 to 22 on him as far as an outright market. Obviously, he's 10-4 here on DraftKings. And he's a guy that just gets in contention so much. I mean, you mentioned his birdie acumen. When we get on the easy courses, when we get on difficult courses, he always seems to find his way in the mix. He was 3 shots off the lead heading to Brookline, had a tough round 4, but I love this spot for Sam. I mean, he already won at the Charles Schwab the week after a major when he was in contention heading to Sunday. He finished T13 here last year. He's improved every single one of his starts here at the Travelers. Came into Sunday with a bit of a chance to kind of make a run and go for it, but ended up finishing T13. And I just don't feel like he gets enough respect for how often he finds himself in the mix. I think the market's still a little bit behind Sam Burns, and maybe that's because exactly. Yeah. Keep it quiet.
Dude's got 3 wins this year.
That's what I'm saying, man. I mean, if you're listing going back to like the US Open and post US Open and kind of who you rank as like the top 5 or 6 golfers in the world, I think Sam Burns is like low key top 5 or 6 golfer in the world right now after kind of the top 3 and maybe Ron or Morikawa. Burns is right there. So anytime I can get him at low ownership or around 20 to 1 in the betting market, I'm going to be all over that. So Burns and JT for me, we're like we said, we're on the same page, not really embracing the debate so far, but I'm sure we'll get there.
So I'm going to kind of skip down a little bit. I'm not so much on Schauffele because, as we've mentioned on the show before, the dude never wins anything. 100%. Even though he's a solid player, always in the mix, never finishes the job. Yeah. And I don't like that.
For sure. He's perpetually in a position for me where I like other guys better. Whether it's DFS, whether it's betting, like why
is he $10,000 on DraftKings? Yeah. Why? I have no idea. Nobody knows why.
He has
3 top 10s. 3.
No win equity. 3. He'll probably backdoor like a top 15, with a Sunday 63, and it'll hype up all the stands for the Open Championship.
3 top 10s and 15 starts.
Yeah.
That's not good for $10,000.
Yeah, especially between Cantley and Spieth, who I both really like this week. So Xander's a full fade, absolutely.
And you mentioned those 2 names. I like both of those guys. I don't think we need to talk about Cantley and Spieth that much because, for how good of a plays they're kind of boring. It's like not much to talk about. Cantley, Ice Water's vein. Spieth is just good at everything and finally putting again. I want to talk about Sung J M because this is the kind of guy that is cutting that same type player style as JT that is not getting any respect. The dude's only 23 years old. Yeah. And we're talking about with a wedge in his hand, absolutely lethal. And we know the guy can make birdies, 6 top 10s, and he is 300 cheaper than 3 top 10 Xander Schauffele here. Yeah. And the dude hasn't even been all there this year. He's kind of been up and down. When he's up, he's really up. And I think that he looked pretty solid this week this last week at Brookline. He didn't quite score as well as he needed to. He made some big numbers that knocked him out of contention. But between him and Neiman and Finau, and then even down to Keegan Bradley, I'm looking at this group down here, and I think I'm going to be loading up some lineups with 3 or 4 of these guys and then just bargain hunting after that.
Absolutely. For me, Sungjae is a slight fade just based on the 3 names. Number one, the 3 names you just mentioned, I like a lot. I think you can't really get as safe as Keegan Bradley this week. He's a Northeastern guy. He has consistent profile of performing kind of in this northeastern climate, whether it's Boston, Vermont, Connecticut. He always seems to play well. Obviously, coming off a really nice finish there at the U.S. Open, cast me a little top 20 bet. So, yeah, Keegan keeps the ball in play. Great iron player. His putting has actually gotten scarily good over the last kind of few months.
It reminds me of a few years ago when he was at the top of his game.
Yeah.
And even as fidgety and unnerving it is to watch him play, he's damn good when he's on.
He is, absolutely. This is exactly the kind of course I like Keegan Bradley at. But for me, my favorite play in this range is actually Tony Finau. You kind of mentioned him.
My man, Ian can come back anytime because he's playing with Tony Finau this week.
T2 Tony, right? But yeah, this is my first click of the week. He's going to be the centerpiece of my DraftKings, of my outright bets. So you look at Tony, and obviously the first thing you think about Tony is he's a long hitter. He's one of the longest guys on the PGA Tour, but he actually does his best work on shorter golf courses. He's elite off the tee when it comes to driving the ball on courses less than 7,200 yards. He's gained over 2.5 strokes off the tee at Colonial, TPC Potomac, and St. George's, which are all kind of shorter golf courses that you need to keep the ball in play. And he's in the middle of a crazy hot iron run. He obviously gained 1.8 in 2 rounds of Brookline. He missed the cut in the number, but the iron play was there. 3.3 strokes gained at RBC Canada, 4.9 at Colonial, 2.2 at Southern Hills, 8.2 in Mexico. He's inside the top 20 in virtually every one of my key metrics. He's a great wedge player, makes a ton of birdies, like you said, and obviously really thrives on these shorter courses off the tee. So
there's a reason for that too, because Finau on longer courses, what really suffers for him is his proximity. And he's not the strongest putter, so if he's lag putting a lot, he's not going to score. But if he's in these shorter courses where his length and his accuracy off the tee can get him easier iron shots for closer proximity, where he's making a higher percentage number of putts, that's where I don't think Finau's a full fade on these longer courses because he just doesn't hit it close enough to the hole to really let his flat stick go. But if he's like you said with these other guys, if he's hitting wedge into most of these greens, he can score with that in bunches. I love that about him.
To your point, wedge play from 125 to 175 on the PGA Tour this year. Tony Finau, 5th. In wedge.
That's pretty good, guys. There's 170 guys on tour, so yeah, you might want to pay attention to a guy's top 5 in anything, especially when he's marked down to 9,500, which is in the top 10 of most expensive plays on DraftKings, but definitely not where he should be. He should be up in the closer to 10K around the Spieth and Schauffele and Cantlay range as far as what we're looking for. That's the value. We're looking for that edge here. And Finau hasn't played well enough this year to really be chalky at any point. So if you're looking to be a DFS dynamo, you're looking for leverage. These tournaments are all about, okay, I want the guy who's going to win that nobody else thinks is going to win. I want the guy that's going to score a ton of DK points with less than 10% rostership. I'm not saying Tony Finau will be less than 10%. He'd probably be between 10 and 15 this week, but that's still green flag racing for me. I love Tony Finau this week. I'm with you. Let's move on to the sub 9K. I'm not huge on Fleetwood Power or Varner, but Davis Riley and Aaron Wise. Oh my God, I gotta have those two guys in my player pool, especially Aaron Wise, Oregon Duck. He is playing so well, and I think DraftKings finally figured out that he's really freaking good because he's finally marked up to 8,800. I'm still smashing that.
Yeah. So for me, I agree with you. I was smiling. It's good I actually came on the show because otherwise we might just have the exact same lineups because
right.
I'm a huge Davis Riley fan. For me, he's my kind of the guy I'm most excited to play this week, most excited to bet this week. I'll just go on a little tangent real quick. So I'll be honest, 3 months ago when Riley lost to Sam Burns in Southern Death at Valspar, I actually cashed the Sam Burns ticket there at Innisbrook. But I really didn't think we'd be seeing his name near the top of leaderboards for a long time. The driver is great. It's always been great. The short game's reliable. But he had like a 3-month stretch there where he was abysmal with the iron play. And I thought, obviously, PGA Tour week in, week out, you've got to be good with the irons and give yourself as many birdie chances as possible in order to compete. And I just thought that was a death knell. I mean, this kid was routinely losing 2, 3, even more strokes per week on approach. So, yeah, he was basically a crossover for me for most of the first half of this year. But over the last 5 weeks, Riley might be the best iron player walking the face of the earth right now. He's gained no less than 3.7 shots on approach in his last 5 starts. He's averaged a whopping 1.5 strokes gained per round during that stretch, which is 6 per tournament. and he has 4 top 15s in that span, plus a T31 obviously last week at the
in the business. They call that figuring something out.
Yeah. So Riley's a dude that, I mean, I think he's underpriced, even though, 8,900 seems like a lot for a PGA Tour rookie that hasn't really, hasn't crossed that threshold of winning yet. But yeah, I just don't see you can keep off your betting cards or out of your lineups. He's gone from a guy I thought could never keep it up to a guy I can't really picture him not finding his way into the winner's circle at some point. So I'm all in 45-1 outrights, and I would happily play him over kind of this Keegan Seamus chalk above him.
Yep. How do you like Mito Pereira? Is he okay for you?
Yeah. If you've listened to our podcast, I'm big on Mito.
Right. Sure, I'll leave it at that. Everybody on the show loves Mito. Yeah. You got back after trashing Rory this week. Connor's back on you because he loves himself some Davis Riley. I'm an Aaron Wise guy, Oregon Duck fan. I love Aaron Wise. He used Casey Martin's putter this last week, which is partly why he hung around so long at the U.S. Open. But 4 top 10s for Aaron Wise this year, only 4 missed cuts. That's great. He's playing well. Mito goes without saying. I'm playing Mito every week. Yep. I'm not sure about Brian Harmon. I'm not sure if he can score with these guys on this type of tournament. He's a really solid player. Just DFS wise, I want more birdies. Give me more birdies, Brian, and we'll talk. Yep. Denny McCarthy putts his brains out, but I don't know if he really need to be a great putter to win it at TPC River Highlands. You just got to put the ball in the hole from wherever you are, because if you're missing opportunities at the Travelers, you're going to lose. You're going to miss the cut by being only 3 or 4 under par after 2 rounds rather than 6 or 7. It's going to be a really low cut number on Friday night. But I'm going to drop all the way down here and look at Mav McNeely, my fellow NorCal brother here.
Interesting.
Maverick McNeely at 7,700 is a screaming value. We haven't seen much of him lately. He took a little time off, didn't qualify for the U.S. Open, so that's okay. I mean, not everybody as young as him is going to automatically qualify or make it through that grueling process the week before. But the guy's a solid player. 15 out of 17 cuts, makes birdies in bunches. One of the best approach players on tour the last couple months. I like Mav McNeely. I'm biased because he's from my neck of the woods, but I'm also looking at him playing well on the PGA Tour as a youngster, and I think the sky's the limit because he's the kind of guy that can come out of nowhere in a tournament like this and not cost me hardly anything.
Yeah. No, I do like McNeely here, and kind of to your points, like the ball striking numbers haven't been all that great for McNeely. Like if you run stat models, he's not really popping near the top, but like you said, he's only missed 2 cuts all year. So he's just kind of got that all around game where if you need a guy at 7,700 that's going to get you to the cut line and post a top 40 or top 35, I mean, he's kind of been on one of the worst, kind of the quote unquote worst stretches of his season here. And he's come out with a 75th, a 32nd, 26th, 35th in his last 4 starts. So yeah, I think McNeely's a perfectly safe play for me. I'm an outright bettor. I like upside. So I'm going to go down to $7,500, maybe a bit of a variance play, and go to Cam Davis. So Cameron Davis, 7,500 is my play from this range. Very much like Finau. Davis profiles is more of a bomber that actually does his best work around shorter golf courses. His 2 best finishes of this year have come at tracks very similar to River Highlands, 3rd at Harbour Town, 7th at Colonial. And he ranks 3rd in this field over the last 2 seasons in strokes gained off the tee and courses under 7,200 yards. So, and over Davis's last 5 events, he's been gaining over half a stroke per round in approach. He hasn't lost strokes putting since Bay Hill in May, and he's ranked 11th in bentgrass putting over his last 2 seasons. So I think this is a great spot. I mean, Cam has won. He's a PGA winner as of last year at Detroit Golf Club, which has very similar bent Poana style greens. And I think he's kind of rounding the form in a way that a lot of people aren't really checking right now. So this type of golf course sets up really well for him. And Cam Davis is a guy I think, unlike Mav, I think is a bit of a safer play if you're playing cash. But I think if you want a bit of upside here in the 7K range, I think Davis is a guy that could absolutely contend here and maybe capture a second tour.
That's a very fair point because in the tournaments where he did make the cut, the dude scores like crazy. Mm-hmm. Like I said, Mavs. I was just about to ask you what Mavs top 10 odds were, but if you're an outright bettor, I don't think you want to go down that road because you're gonna be damaging your brand. Because if you're flag hunting, You're only betting outright. You're like, hey, I'm just looking for birdies and eagles here. I don't care about no top 10s. Get out of here. Forget about it. Cam Davis, I like that. Yeah, a lot of these other guys are kind of boring. I'll agree with you here. Tom Hoagy is interesting because he's basically the most wild card guy you could get. He's either going to miss the cut in a cloud and burst into flames, or he's going to shoot a 59 on day one and be like, oh, well, Hoagie's on again. Just an extremely good ball striker, but you just never know who's going to show up.
Exactly.
And so
the two courses you would really correlate to River Highlands, Pebble Beach, Colonial. He won at Pebble Beach and missed the cut at Colonial, and he cost me quite a bit of money at Colonial because I was all looking at.
Thanks, Tom. You and Ian and me are both jilted after playing similar tight courses with small greens and watching you win one and miss the cut badly on the other.
Yeah, it was not good. Fort Worth, I thought the hometown narrative would be there, but he did not.
He is the most frustrating play in DFS golf.
Yeah,
he just is.
He has the tools, man. Like, I mean, when he's on, like you said, I mean, his iron play is second to none, especially on these shorter courses. But yeah, I don't really trust the driver or the putter enough to really make a big time stand on Hoagie for sure.
What about Luke List? The guy pops up every week in the ball striking models. What's this guy's deal? What's Luke List? What is Luke List's deal?
Well, he hasn't really changed in like 5 years, right? Like we know Luke List is a phenomenal ball striker, and he like putts his way out of every other tournament. So I think here, like at a place where, to your point, we're gonna probably the winning score is gonna be at least 18 under par, 16 under par. You're gonna have to make a ton of birdies, and for me, like List is just gonna have to hit it so damn close on all these holes. I like
cannot putt, guys. The dude cannot putt.
Yeah, I think as like a 10 handicap, I can probably match Luke List on the greens. Nowhere else, but on the greens, I'm a match for him. But yeah, I can't trust the putter at this point. I like Luke List a lot more when the winning score is going to be like 6 under par, 5 under par, like at a U.S. Open or PGA Championship, and you're kind of relying more on bogey avoidance and the ball striking carries him more so than the putter's going to have to this week.
So let me give you a two-part question here, Ian. Are there any outright long shots that you are taking a shot on here that are under 7K on DraftKings? And if not, are there any put your DFS cap on and say, who are you going to take a stab at on DraftKings under 7K?
Yeah, so I'm pretty on the outright card. You can find all our bets on Flag Hunting at Twitter. But on the outright card, I was pretty heavily exposed to the top. Like I said, I like Finau a lot. I like Burns and Spieth. Those are kind of my 3 main bets of the week. Along with Davis Riley. I already mentioned Cam Davis. He's an outright bet at 150 to 1. If I had to give one more, I've seen Adam Svensson around 200 to 1 or even higher at some spot.
Yes, go Canada.
There you go. Oh, Canada, right? But again, Svensson's a guy. We've talked about this being a short course, has a lot of corollaries to a lot of these positional tracks we saw earlier in the year. And, it's very clear Svensson has a type that he plays well at. He finished 7th at Sony, 6th or 9th at Honda, 26th at Auburn, 40th at Colonial, fresh off a 21st at Canada where he gained 6 shots, tee to green to the field. So I trust the driver to keep Svensson out of trouble. He's 25th at fairways gained over the last 3 months, and the approach game has been as reliable as they come on these kind of short iron and wedge intensive courses. So he's 5th in stroke gain approach on courses under 7,200 yards. Give me Adam Svensson. Outright's kind of tough to sell you on, but if you want like a top 20, he's probably still around like 5 to 1 or so on a top 20, if not higher. So
not too shabby.
Yeah, exactly. So if I'm reaching into the 6,800, if I hammer JT and Burns at the top per se, Svensson and guys like Lucas Glover and Austin Smotherman are my 3 guys here under 7K to go for.
Yeah, I usually hate Glover, but he's almost too cheap now to ignore.
Yeah, man, he finished top 20 here last year. So.
Really talented.
Yeah. Also wanted another similar kind of short bent grass course at Deer Run, accurate with a driver. He's third in proximity from 125 to 175. So obviously, just like Luke List, he's perfectly capable of kind of punting his way out of any cut line. But the recent ball striking is like legitimately good enough to be up there and contend.
I think I'm going to take. I think I'm going to put a lot of stock for my value picks for DraftKings into recent form. Like recent form for me means a lot for these value guys because they're otherwise just a crapshoot. Like how are you supposed to peg down a couple of these guys? I'm looking at Wyndham Clark, who's looked really good lately. Yeah. Longer hitter, which gives me more confidence that he's going to be hitting more wedges into greens, which is always good in a tournament where you need birdies, because all these guys are going to be a lot closer with their wedges than they will be with a mid and long iron, which most of these holes are not going to demand the whole bag. You're not going to see very much more than driver, 9-iron driver, wedge of some kind. And so I do like Wyndham Clark down at 6,700. Svensson pops up for me too. I can't ignore him. I would like Beau Hossler if he could hit a wedge to save his life, because he can hit the crap out of the ball and put the lights out. But good Lord, it's like, I think if you, just like you said, you could putt with Luke List, I could hit a wedge with Beau Hossler. Bo McBrayer, Beau Hossler with the wedge in their hand, about the same. But he's a lot better putter than I am.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and Bo's one of those guys that, like, it feels like once he gets in contention, like, all of a sudden the wheels start coming off. I just remember at Valero, I think the week before the Masters, he was like right there in the final group, and I don't think I've ever seen a professional player hit the ball worse on a Sunday than Beau Hossler. So
he completely disintegrated.
Yeah,
he was missing Drew Lipsky. These are all guys that could pop up in contention, but like I'm looking at recent form. Like I relied on JJ Spawn a couple weeks ago, and it didn't pan out, and so I'm kind of off him this week. A sneaky one that's just a pure bomber who can't putt to save his life is Joseph Bramlett. Man, the guy just absolutely smashes the ball but cannot putt.
I think he led the field in approach last week at the U.S. Open. I saw him pop in a lot of kind of the U.S. Open metrics. So maybe you're riding a bit, like you said, recent form, catch guys that's hot. I wouldn't put him in too many lineups just because the there. But yeah, certainly, I feel like if Bramlett's on, like he can certainly be in like a top 20 play or something like that. So I like Austin Smotherman too. I mean, I don't know if you want to spend too much time in like the sub sevens, but yeah, Smotherman at 6,800 seems like a bit of a misprice considering how good of a ball striker he is. He's gained strokes putting also in 4 straight events since the tour switched over to Bentgrass, and he's made 6 consecutive cuts, 10 of his last 12. So guys down here, like you're looking for skill sets, you're looking for profiles, and Smotherman for me is just a guy who's too good of a ball striker to.
And he's playing well. I do like that about him.
Yeah,
he's definitely gonna be in my pool. Before we jump up to who your wild card, who your number one guy, your captain pick would be, who's your wild card guy? Who's the guy that you think could just come out of nowhere, nobody sees it coming, and he's gonna win this damn thing?
I'll win.
Yeah, we're flag hunting, man. I'm gonna have Ian McNeill on the show, and I'm not gonna ask him to go flag hunting.
Okay, let's get a little weird. So I'll go with Emiliano Grillo to win. The 7,100, man. So he's fresh off his best ball striking performance since the 2021 Heritage. Again, another corollary course, short positional golf course. But yeah, he could be a real value here at kind of the bottom of the 7K range. He's made 5 consecutive cuts. He's averaged 3 strokes per tournament tee to green in that span, and has made 4 or 5 cuts here at the Travelers. And despite his extended run of bad form, he kind of before this little 5-week stretch, he still ranks as the 6th best player in this field for proximity from 125 to 175. And at his best, I always like Grillo at these places that emphasis on keeping it in the fairway and then attacking with your wedges and your short iron. So he just got off gaining 8.4 strokes ball striking at the Memorial. So if we're back to like vintage Grillo, like this is a guy that was 50 to 1, 60 to 1 in these kind of fields, and you can probably get him at well into the triple digits. So if you want to get super weird,
that is super weird because I haven't even uttered the name out loud. Emiliano Grillo. I haven't said that name since last year when he was actually good.
It's been a bad run of form, but he's had 2 weeks now of solid play. So I think he's in a good spot, as good of a spot as you could be at this price.
And this tournament's going to come down to just who gets hot at the right time, and so I could see it. I think my lower level guy to take this damn thing home. See, you messed me up because I was gonna say Austin Smotherman, but you kind of stole my thunder. But I agree with you. Yeah. Austin Smotherman, I think, can win this damn thing. I think the guy is just too good. He's on his good recent form. I think he can win the tournament. And at 6,800, that's pretty damn solid. That's if you're playing DFS, you're not playing to min cash. You're playing to win. You're playing to take to whatever tournament you're in, whatever head to head or small 50-50 you're in. You want to be above the pay line. And so in order to do that, your leverage plays, your plays that nobody else has or very few others have, even whether they're 8,000 or 10,000 or 6,800, you want those guys to all have a chance to win the tournament, or at least score so many birdies and finish high enough that you're getting some great value out of them. And what better place to find that value than a guy that barely just basically plug in to fill out your lineup under the salary cap.
Yeah.
And if they contend for the win or their top 10 or top 5, that's pure profit. You can almost guarantee you're going to win some money in DFS if your value plays are chasing the trophy on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Smotherman, like we said earlier. I mean, he's just a guy that I've ridden for a long time in the prop market and DFS because, like you said, he's the 15th best ball striker in this field. The putter has actually come back. Like I said, he's gained strokes putting in 4 straight events. He's top 50 in putting over the last 6 months, which doesn't sound all that great. But when you talk about a guy that, hits as far as he does and hits his irons as well as he does, he's a guy that can rack up a ton of birdies in a long time. And I do remember him being in somewhat of contention there on the weekend at Pebble Beach, which is another kind of shorter course. So he was making noise there and obviously has continued on that form as we go on.
He reminds me of like a really, really, really poor man Sergio Garcia. Like he's just got that. He's got that ball striking ability where you're like, wow, this guy just hits the shit out of the ball. If he could just put it together around the greens and on the greens, then we're talking about a special player. Like Sergio, when he would go through times where he putted even remotely decent, that was when he was winning.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys like that I tend to bet quite a bit because I'm like, just putt one time for me if you can win by 4.
Time.
Yeah. For me, I think, I mean, Sergio's a good comparison. I would say Hovland, like E-grade Hovland, because I think Smotherman's main problem is the fact that he can't get up and down from anywhere. But, when he's ball striking, I mean, Smotherman's path to winning is just hitting everything to 15 feet and making half the putts, and never having a chip because Smotherman's one of the worst chippers in this entire field. But, if you do ball strike the way he's capable of doing it, you never have to chip in your life. You're just going to hit every single green and putt for birdie all week long. So
that's true.
He's a guy that, like I said, I've been riding quite a bit in this kind of low rank.
All right, who's your number one guy?
Number one guy, Jordan Spieth.
Wow, I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I mean he's a past winner at this tournament. I got him at 22-1. You can actually find him at 25 on some of the books. I think DraftKings has a 25 posted right now. But yeah, he's a past winner.
You're gonna drive to Nevada and place a bet on Jordan Spieth, are you?
What's that?
You're gonna make me drive to Nevada and place a bet on Jordan Spieth, aren't you?
Hey, I'll place it for you, man. If you need the if you need the software, I got it for you. Just send me a Venmo and we'll figure the stuff out. But yeah, like I said, man, he's a past winner here at the Travelers. It's a great number, I think, compared to like kind of the rest of the guys above him. 22-1, and a guy like Jordan who's dominated short tracks all year long. Finished obviously 1 at Harbor Town, 2nd at Pebble Beach, 7th at Colonial. Obviously coming off a 37th at Brookline's not ideal, but the irons were phenomenal there, and he shouldn't really come out of it too worse for wear mentally. Just in terms of, we talked about guys like Scheffler and Rory being maybe a bit more worn down, just being in contention for 4 straight days. Spieth kind of had a bit of a hit and giggle around Brookline there on Saturday and Sunday, not really having a chance to win. So the underlying stats look great. He's obviously dominated shorter courses. He's a past champion here, and you're getting a good price. So for me, Spieth, 25-1, whatever you can find. He's my biggest bet of the week.
Yeah, and my top guy is Justin Thomas. It goes without saying. But his odds aren't like, I've looked at his outright odds. They're not that appealing, really. Like he's almost too much of a favorite for me to really want to bet that, because it's not really worth the. I mean, putting forth the money is one thing, but it's a golf tournament. You never know what's going to happen. I think the guy with the best odds of winning that has decent betting odds for outright is Sung JM. That's going to be my guy, especially for DFS when I can get him for a cool 1,100 less than JT. I'm going to build a lot of lineups around Sung JM. I know you're fading him a little bit, you said, but I think this guy's going to go nuclear. He's going to be more well rested because he missed the cut on the number at Brookline. these top guys might not have the motivation to really go low like it's going to be required here. This isn't like even when Spieth won this tournament, he kind of got lucky. He really did.
Oh, yeah.
He came down the stretch and hit that wild bunker shot that would have flown into the water if it didn't hit the flagstick. It's a great memory. It's an amazing miracle shot, but at the same time, you're like, okay, it's good for Jordan. I love Jordan Spieth, but I think what's going to come down to is who's going to be fresh, who's going to be hungry, who's going to want to make a ton of birdies. And I think Sung J.M. has a lot to prove because he hasn't done anything in a long time, at least since earlier in the season when he was just cracking birdies left and right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do like Sung Jae in general, just as a player. I mean, he's kind of one of my guys I do bet quite often. The best number I could find was around 30-1, which, I mean, if you're that bullish on him, obviously you make that move. But for me, I like Finau a lot. I like Spieth a lot. I like Burns a lot. So, you can't bet everybody. And so he was one of my final cuts, but certainly can see the rationale, him being such an accurate driver of the golf ball and making, I think he was the birdie leader on the PGA Tour last year. So certainly able to take it deep, and he'll be a guy to keep an eye on. Yeah.
I just love him for DFS because the dude just everywhere he goes, even if he throws up a quadruple bogey on a hole, he's coming back with a flurry of birdies.
Very true. Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap this up. Ian, tell everybody who you are, who you represent, what you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I'm here. I'm one half of the Flag Hunting Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at @flag_hunting. Like I said, we cover we cover all the golf content, all the NASCAR content on a week-to-week basis. So not really too many off weeks. So you can always find us making some kind of bet somewhere or some kind of fancy plays or DFS plays wherever. So follow us on Twitter, man. Give us a listen on Apple or Spotify. Podcast is the same name, Flag Hunting. And man, it was a pleasure being on. I hope I didn't step on your toes too much. I know I screwed your Smotherman take, but it was a fun conversation nonetheless.
Great minds think alike, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Usually, I have to fight tooth and nail with Kelly and Connor because we get a little upset when we agree too much. Like Connor and I, when we're on the same page, or even if all three of us are on the same page, we usually all win. And that's really a good sign. I think Ian and I agreed just enough to feel comfortable this week with our plays, and I'm sure Kelly and Connor are gonna fly in here to tell us that we're both wrong. But of course, I'm Bo McBrayer, Bo_McBigTime on Twitter. You can find me here, IBT Media, 19th Hole Live. I write PGA DFS for Team Rise or Fall. You can catch my article out tomorrow about the Travelers Championship. You're going to hear a lot of the same points being made, maybe a little bit more detail and data thrown in there because I'll have it right at my fingertips for writing that article. Of course, you can find my football work, Fantasy Pros. That's been the 19th hole. I really do enjoy having you on here, Ian. It's a pleasure to meet your acquaintance. You really impressed me with the data that you had on hand, and your rationale was solid. So I can't crack down on you too much for stepping on my Smotherman pick because I mean it's just a smart play. Smart plays are smart plays, whether you're the first one to say it or not.
There you go. Lock it in. 100% Smotherman. Let's make some money on
Lock it in.
On the 19th hole. There you go.
All right. From all of us at IBT Media, make sure you go into the YouTube channel, subscribe, like, comment, set alerts, ring the bell, do all the things you need to do to be in with us at IBT Media. Make sure you go and check out Flag Hunting Podcast. I'm going to do the same because from what I've heard from Ian, even if he's just half of the outfit over there, I'm pretty impressed. And I think that they got some good things going on over there. So check that out. Check us out. Check us out next week. Hopefully Kelly will be farther away from the brink of death and Connor won't have any honey-do list items that pop up at the last minute. From Ian, I'm Bo. Have a great night. Cheers. Thank you.
That's not good.